Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Luan, and I'll be presenting to you this afternoon. I am from the beautiful Cape Town, South Africa, where it is cold and rainy today. I really do hope the weather is better where you are. And speaking of which, we'd love to see where you're listening and watching from today. So please remember to put your name and location in the chat so that we can say hi to you and just welcome you to today's webinar. So while those names come in, and I do expect them to come in, please say hi. Just a little bit about today and a little bit about me. So as mentioned, my name is Luan. I have been a teacher for over 15 years. And during this time, I have taught students from all over the world. It's been such a privilege and such a ride. And I'm really happy just to be a small part of your TEFL journey as you get towards your career. So today's webinar is about a very specific topic. As mentioned earlier, it's going to be about the level 3B assignment. So not the level 5 course, the level 3 course, level 3B specifically. So I will be presenting for about half an hour just to tell you all the details that are necessary to know in order to feel confident about this assignment. And then after that 30 minutes, I'm going to invite you to ask all your questions. Now, remember, if you type your questions in too early on, I might miss them when we get to Q&A. So my advice always to our listeners and our viewers is just hold on to those questions, jot them down, and when I do open Q&A, yes, of course, punch them in and I will answer as many of them as I possibly can within the hour. Also, remember that only questions about today's webinar will be answered. So if you have, about today's topic will be answered. So if you do have any questions about other assignments or about other aspects of the course of TEFL, then please send them to tutor support, where of course we will do our best to answer all those questions. So remember, hold on to your questions, but do ask them when Q&A opens. But yes, I will be addressing only questions that are related to today's topic. All right, so just also something to remember is that, as mentioned, you can send your questions to tutor support by opening a ticket. And of course, one of us will get onto your question and answer you ASAP, right? So just a little bit of an introduction to today's webinar. A reminder that it is level 3, assignment B. And yes, for all of you who are doing the level 3 course, this webinar will be particularly useful. If you're doing the level 5 course, a lot of what we say today might not make sense in the context of your course, but of course you're welcome to join just to learn as much as you can possibly about TEFL in general, right? So let's see who's joined us. Not too many names have come in, and I'm wondering whether people are just weekending right now. So we've got some visitors from India, we've got some visitors from Canada, and we usually have visitors from all over the world. So as those names come in, I will absolutely say hello to you. Right, so let's get started with today's topic. It is a very interesting topic, and that is the level 3B assignment. So I know that lots and lots of people have stress about the assignments because they see these assignments or they view these assignments as exams. But remember, yes, they are an indication for us as tutors, as markers, to see that you've understood the course and the contents of the course, but also they're useful for you, helping you going forward, helping you plan lessons, just so that you feel that bit more confident, right? So let's have a look at what we're going to explore in today's webinar. Right, so as mentioned, level 3B, we're going to explore the following today. We're going to look at what the assignment assesses. We're going to look at the reasons for doing the assignment. Why? I've given you 1 or 2 reasons already, but we're just going to dive a little bit deeper and have a look at those too. We're going to look at the documents that you are meant to download. Because a lot of people feel a bit overwhelmed. They're working online. Now they've got to download documents to work on. we show you that it is quite simple. And of course, if you get stuck, you can contact us at Tutor Support. Right. So we're going to be looking at that, the documents to download, and then also we're going to be looking at the assignment in a bit more detail, like the lesson plan review in step 1, and also step 2, what it entails to create authentic materials and authentic activities. Then we're also going to look at the final part of the assignment, which is all about adapting a physical resource. Right, so that's today's webinar. That's what we're going to look at. I see more names have come in. Hello to you. I've got visitors from the Ukraine. I have visitors from South Africa, Port Elizabeth, and also, goodness me, from Alaska. That's a first for me. You are very, very welcome, and please keep joining. All right, so as mentioned, in the south of France, I love that. All right, so let's get started. And yes, as you come in, please put your names into the chat. Of course, we can even say hi to you a little bit later on. But now let's get cracking. Hi, Seth from Austria. All right, so as mentioned, the assignment assesses your ability to evaluate an existing lesson plan and make improvements. So we have given you a lesson plan that someone else has done, and you've got to have a look at this lesson plan and see what is good about this lesson plan, what is not good. Particularly, our focus for the assignment is what is not good in the lesson plan, and you've got to write improvements. We also look in the assignment at the creation of authentic activities using authentic and freely available resources. So as teachers, very often we get given course books, right? But very often we're also just left to our own devices at these schools or language centers that we're going to find ourselves at. And very often these schools and language centers do not have existing resources, and they might ask us to create some ourselves. So that's what this part of the assignment really assesses, your ability to have a piece of material and create activities for a particular class. And then also, the final thing that the assignment assesses is your ability to evaluate the appropriateness and safety of a physical resource. So we give you an activity, we give you a bit of a spanner in the works, and we ask you, how would you create a safer environment for these students? So as you can see, this assignment is fantastic in a sense that it gives you really practical tools before you step into your real classroom. So just to run through what the assignment assesses, the ability to point out what is not working on an existing lesson plan and make improvements, create authentic activities using authentic and freely available resources, and then, yes, evaluating the appropriateness and safety of a physical resource. So now on the next slide, we're going to look at the documents that you have to download. And there are just 3 little documents. The first one is the main template. So this is where most of your work is going to go, right? So the documents are available on the assignment page. You've just got to scroll to the bottom of the page to find them. They are by default in MS Word. And must not be altered in any way, only typed on. Then you need to convert them to PDF before you upload them. So that's just a little bit of background knowledge about these templates. So as mentioned, assignment page, scroll down to the bottom, and that's where you'll find them. They're in MS Word so that you're able to work on them, but please don't remove the logos, don't remove the formatting, don't remove the existing instructions, leave them as they are. Your spaces where you are meant to type your work all these spaces have been pointed out, and you just simply type your work there. And then remember, yes, to convert them to PDF before you upload them. So when we look at the documents that you've got to download, I jumped ahead a little bit earlier, but now we're going to look at the 3 documents that you're meant to download, right? So the first document is your main template. Now, as mentioned earlier, the main template is where most of your work goes. This is where you're going to find all those spaces that I spoke about earlier where you are meant to type your work, right? So this is the meaty part of the assignment. And then also something else to download is an animal fact sheet. So this is that authentic material we were talking about. This is a bit of text that your students will read. And then also there's a video that you are going to be working with as well. It's an MP4 and it's based on the countries of the world. So two bits of material that you're going to be working with, an animal fact sheet and the countries of the world MP4. And those are the two bits of material that you are going to create those authentic materials on. So those are the documents that you are going to download. All right, just 3 of them. All right, so the first part of the assignment is step 1, and this is the lesson plan review. I particularly like this part of the assignment because it's easier, and also you have existing knowledge from assignment A, right? So in assignment A, you have to create a lesson plan and you get feedback from your marker as to what works and what does not work in your lesson plan. So by the time you get to assignment B, you've already got not only the knowledge of what a lesson plan is meant to look like, but you've got the do's and the don'ts of the lesson plan. So when going over the lesson plan in assignment B, you've already got quite a few points that you can include based on your feedback from assignment A. So the first thing you have to do with step 1, the lesson plan review, always start with reading the instructions, right? So a good start is to read the case study. This case study will give you the information about the group of students that you're working with, their age, their background, and very importantly, their level, right? And this information is so vital because this information gives you the opportunity to really visualize the class that you're working with and the class that you're trying to improve this lesson plan for, right? So first, read that case study. The very next point is to think about a PPP lesson plan. Now, remember I told you you've had one in assignment A. So just go over assignment A's feedback to see what was more or less expected in the PPP lesson plan, what your tutor told you to do, what your tutor told you to avoid, because this comes in very handy when you make your recommendations to improve the PPP lesson plan in step 1 of assignment B. So look at the model given, identify the shortcomings, make recommendations, and write these specifically in the area improvements. It's the improvement section at the bottom of each stage. So as you know, the very first stage of a lesson plan is the warmer, right? So you've got to identify what is not good in the warmer, why it's a problem, and what you would do to improve the stage, right? And then you go to the next stage, the next stage, the next stage. Write us a little paragraph on each stage. You've got to make 2 recommendations. So identify 2 problems, identify why these are problems, and identify and tell us what you would do to improve this. So this is where you've really got to think about the course content on a PPP lesson plan. And as mentioned earlier, also that feedback that you got from your marker for assignment A, which was also based on a PPP lesson plan. All right, so something to bear in mind is that you do not need to comment on the aims, the objectives, or the anticipated problems on that very first page of the lesson plan. These have been included for your information. You do not have to write anything there. Read them, go through them. I feel like if you do that, it'll give you a better idea of your class that you're working with and also just the lesson plan as a whole. It really does give you that background information that you need. But as mentioned, you don't have to comment on the aims or objectives or anticipated problems. Just read them so that you know exactly what's going on in this lesson. And remember, as mentioned earlier, you write 2 recommendations per stage. So for your warmer, identify 2 problems, how you would fix them. For your presentation stage, identify 2 problems, why are they problems, and then write a solution for these. All right. Okay, so remember, that this is an online lesson plan, right? So it is important to consider, are the tasks suitable for an online lesson? If the teacher, for example, in the existing lesson plan has mentioned that students will run around the classroom looking for a partner, is this really realistic in an online setting? So things like that, take them into consideration. Another point to consider is, are the tasks student focused? Are they sufficiently student focused, or is the teacher the core of every task? Because remember, in TEFL, it's a bit different from our old school traditional classrooms where the teacher is the main focal point. We don't do that in TEFL. The students are the stars of the show. So are the tasks in this lesson sufficiently student focused? Also, has the teacher remembered techniques like eliciting the target language from students and concept checking to check understanding, or has the teacher just given away this information? So those are things that are really necessary. Take a screenshot of the screen if you can, because these are very important points to consider when you identify the issues in the lesson plan and make your recommendations. All right, and then also think about the PPP lesson plan, right? Are the tasks that the existing lesson plans teacher, that they've included, are they suitable for their respective stages? Is the teacher honoring the PPP plan? Are they doing the right kind of practice in that particular stage? So that is something really to pay attention to. And again, I remind you not only to go to our course content, but also the feedback given to you by your assignment A tutor. They will have pointed out the shortcomings of your lesson plan, which you can very well use as guidance when you make your recommendations for the different tasks in their respective stages of this lesson plan. So, are the tasks suitable for the stage of the lesson? Is the timing appropriate for each stage of the lesson? If the lesson is only to engage learners and set a context, is 15 or 20 minutes really necessary? What would you recommend? Why is it a problem if that lesson or if that particular task is too long? So think about timing of each stage. And then also, is there enough information in the lesson plan so that if another teacher were to pick up and use that lesson plan, would they know exactly what to do? Because remember, as teachers, we create resources, we create materials, not only for ourselves, but to share with others, because we very often use lesson plans that others have done in other lessons, right? So if I design a lesson plan, is there enough information for another teacher to pick up and use this lesson plan? So when you're viewing this lesson plan in step one, is it easy enough just to pick up and use? Comment on things like that, because it is quite necessary, right? So that is the lesson plan review. And as you can see, again, you're not been asked so much for your opinion. You've been asked to really use the knowledge that you've collected over the past few units about the PPP lesson plan, the grammar, a typical grammar class, working with students of a particular age and level, and you've been asked to comment on a lesson plan, and in a way showing us what kind of information you've gathered up till this point in the course. Right, so now we've got step one done and dusted. Now we look at the assignments, step two. And this is where we are creating original online activities. So activity one, let's picture our group of students, 10 to 12 years old, A2 level, so quite young, but that preteen sort of phase. And excuse me, A2 level. So we have provided you in the assignment with an authentic text. You do not need to find one yourself. It's provided for you. You do not need to create a version of what we've provided. You use it as is, right? The theme is nature, or the world of animals. And what you've got to do here is create a reading comprehension online task. based on this text. So what we're asking you to do is to come up with 6 to 8 comprehension questions and to create a nice worksheet that you would give students. Now remember, again, it's an online lesson, right? So it's got to be something that you can send to them via a chat function, something that you can display on the screen, or something that you can send them a link of. But remember, we're going to need the full worksheet sent to us. But something important to remember with this activity is that we're asking you just to design the reading comprehension task and give us the relating worksheet. We're not asking you to create any of the preceding tasks or any of the post reading tasks, just the reading comprehension. So you can assume hypothetically that everything else in the lesson has already been done and that another task is maybe going to follow on, but all you need to focus on when creating this activity is the reading comprehension task, right? 6 to 8 comprehension questions. Right, so the materials of this reading comprehension must be an actual activity worksheet designed by you. We cannot accept just you sending us a link. If you work on Kahoot, for example, it's lovely, but you cannot just send us the link. Your marker should not have to click on a link in order to view your worksheet. You need to go open your worksheet online, either copy and paste or take screenshots of your worksheet and insert these into the materials section provided on your main template. If you scroll down to the bottom of the lesson plan section, there is a materials section just for you to insert your worksheet, right? So remember, actual worksheet, not just a link, not just a description of the worksheet. You need to include the whole worksheet. You must create the task yourself. This task cannot be taken from another site or from one of these lovely educational sites. You know, if you find something, it cannot just be copied and pasted into yours. It needs to be authentic. You need to create this activity, and it needs to be based on the material we've provided. So again, create it yourself. Do not take it from another resource. You can, of course, research other resources, look at the design of other worksheets. Of course, you can. This is what we want you to do. But when putting the actual worksheet together, all you, this is what we need. All right. And then also, we've got a second activity. Remember, I spoke to you earlier about a video based on countries around the world. It's a really nice video. It's so engaging. And I feel that this is an exciting jumping off point for you, right? So again, you've got your students that are 10 to 12 years old. They're level A2, once again, and the material that you are basing your very cool, authentic online activity on is the video Countries of the World, right? So you, as mentioned earlier, you've got to create an online discussion activity this time. So now you're not creating the reading comprehension anymore. You've got to assume in your head that that's already been done. And what you're planning here is that fluency activity, right? So a speaking activity that would allow your 10 to 12-year-olds to talk about the themes, the topic in the video. Now remember, with students, especially students learning English, especially this age, you cannot just say to them, talk about the topic, right? That is impossible. They would not know where to start. So we've got to give them a few prompts, and you've got to include those in this worksheet. We need 6 to 8 speaking prompts. Maybe it's discussion questions based on the topic of the video. Maybe it's 8 role play scenarios that they've got to play out. Maybe it's a few mind maps that you've created around the topic of travel. So these are the speaking prompts that we're referring to. They've got to be written for your students so that they can follow these prompts. And remember, prompts really initiate conversation. Your students would then, it would be down to them to extend that conversation. But the prompts, discussion questions, role play scenarios, mind maps to get them talking, those would be your design once again. And again, you're going to put that in some kind of worksheet. You're going to then either copy paste that worksheet into the materials section, or you're going to take screenshots and you're going to insert those into the materials section. Because again, even if you work using an online resource, your marker should not have to click on a link in order to view your worksheet or activity that you've planned. So yes, remember to include the whole worksheet. All right, so as mentioned, yeah, include the actual activity worksheet or a screenshot. Do not send only links. And again, just a reminder that you must create this task yourself. It should not be taken from another resource. It will get flagged for plagiarism, but also we really want you to practice how to create activities on your own. So again, of course, you can use other activities as inspiration. You can steal ideas here and there when it comes to design or layout or colors to include, or maybe even some of the ideas that you want students to talk about. But again, these need to be all of your own work, you know, really just put into this activity worksheet. And again, just a reminder, you don't have to create a separate activity or materials file. There is a materials section in the main template specifically designated for these materials. All right. And the final step, step 3, is adapting a physical resource for use in the classroom. And a great jumping off point, once again, listeners, is to read the class description. Because again, it gives you an idea of who your people are in the class, right? And tells you what their strengths are, tells you what they like, tells you what the issues are in the classroom. You also need to read the description of the game. So we've included a class description, we've included an activity that the teacher wants to do with this particular class, but there are a few snags and you need to make recommendations to improve this game, right? How would this game be safer for your students? How would the game be more appropriate for this group of students? What could you do to make the environment conducive to enjoyment and inclusive nature, and also, as mentioned earlier, safer? So again, read the class description, read the description of the activity that we're proposing, and then write your recommendations of how you would adapt this game to make it better overall, right? So when it comes to using the template, once again, it's on the same main template. You just need to scroll down. Step 3, use the headings on the template as a guide. You need to write this in first person, continuous text, not bullet or point form, please. And your writing needs to be about 300 words. So a lot of people tend to think that it's 300 words for the whole assignment. No, it's 300 words only for this essay, right? Because and the reason we've set this word count requirement is because we really want you to use your planning, to use the knowledge that you've gathered, and just to use your creativity a little bit with how you can improve this activity. As teachers, we're doing this every single day. We come up and we see an activity in a book or online, and we think, this would be a great activity for my class. However, we don't have the space for it. So what could I do? How could I avoid injuries? If students are going to be running around, what can I do? If there isn't enough light in the classroom, what can I do? If the materials are going to be this, and this, that's okay. But what can I do to these materials just to make them clearer, make them better? So think about all those things when you're writing your recommendations here. So can you see this assignment, other than step 2's activities that you are planning for your class, step 1 and step 3 are really all about improving existing resources and making them better, because as teachers, we literally do that every single day. So just to recap, use the headings on the template as a guide. This must be written sort of in paragraph form as continuous cohesive text, not as bullet or point forms, please. If that's the case, we may have to ask you to resubmit. And as mentioned, write enough, teachers. We really want to hear your ideas. So 300 words, more or less, but we have that 10% leeway, which means if you're 10% under or 10% over, that's a-okay. And this pretty much applies to all our assignments when it comes to producing written text. 10% under or over, and you're good to go. All right. So just a few tips before we finish up. And now, teachers, I'm going to start, suggesting that you start typing your questions in the chat so that I can already start seeing them come in, so that by the time we round off and finish the tips, I've already got a few questions that I can answer, and we can really make the most of our time, because I know you've got questions, right? So teachers, start typing those questions in the chat right now. All right, so just a few tips before we look at those questions. Check your copy leaks score. It's up to 30%. Remember, for plagiarism, but also for AI. And because, and we do pay attention to these scores with this assignment, because as mentioned earlier, we really want the activities to be your work. We want you to go and design a few resources for your class. So you are, as soon as you are ready to upload your files, they are going to be put through our Copy Leaks program. It's an automatic thing. Once you are happy with your scores, you click on save, and that immediately takes your assignment from draft to submitted. If you have, for example, submitted prematurely, your scores are all over the place, and you just want that space to resubmit, don't panic. Send us a message at tutor support. We will revert your assignment to draft so that you can properly go through the process again. Contact tutor support if you've got any issues whatsoever, right? If we can't help you because of a technical problem, we will contact our technical team, or we will refer you to them. All right. Now, please remember that we cannot preview files or assignment work before you submit. We do get so many requests where teachers write maybe step 3 and they send it to us and they ask us, is this okay? Is it going to pass? We unfortunately cannot make that call on tutor support, right? So please don't ask us to preview any of your work. Please don't ask us to check if it's okay. What we can check is that maybe the way you've structured something is correct, or the way where on the template you filled something in. We can absolutely have a look, but we can't look at the actual work and tasks that you've done. Your marker will do that. Like all our assignments, you get 3 attempts in total, your first initial attempt, and then 2 resubmission attempts thereafter. And just again, teachers, as a reminder, please remember that a marker will never ask you to resubmit without telling you why. And boy, oh boy, do we tell you why. We give you lots of detail as to why you need to resubmit. So when we do, please look for the feedback. If you've forgotten how to find your feedback, send us a ticket. We'll send you the steps so that you can go and see exactly why you need to resubmit. Not only do we tell you to resubmit, we tell you why. We tell you why it's a problem, and we also give you examples of how to improve. So it really is quite a detailed process. So if you do have to resubmit, firstly, don't panic. We're going to help you. And secondly, it's okay to have to resubmit. It is a very common occurrence on our course, and it's no reflection of the hard work you've put in. It's just sometimes 1 or 2 things might need to be clarified, and then you're good to go. And remember, we'll always tell you why, right? So a couple of tips that are not on the slides that I'd just like to take you through before we finish is, when you're ready to upload, read the checklist. There's always some kind of checklist, whether it be in the assessment book or on the assignment page. Read the checklist to make sure that you've included everything. Use our templates only. Do not make your own templates. Do not tweak and move things around on the templates. Do not just type your word into your text into an ordinary file and send it to us. We will not be able to grade this. We've also got grading bodies watching over us to make sure that our work is standardized. So please use our templates only. The next point, create your own tasks. Don't take them copy paste from other resources. Create your own. Of course, use ideas and inspiration. Every teacher does that, but make it your own, right? Use the naming convention guidelines on the assignment page. If you're not sure of these, all you have to do is leave the remaining template's name and just add your surname and your name to those, and you'll be just fine, right? And then also, something else to remember when it comes to this particular assignment is that your tasks are a reflection of what you know. So avoid AI because again, that one, it gets picked up in our copy leak system, and two, we really are not against using AI going forward in your classrooms, of course. But when it comes to the assignments, we really want this to be an organic piece of your work, straight out of your mind, straight out of your creativity. So please avoid it. Find license-free pictures on the internet, and of course reference them in the bibliography. Also, something to remember is, if you want to use text, sites like Grammarly, those summarizing sites, they unfortunately also get picked up as AI. So even if you've just used the site to quickly proofread and check your mistakes, the copy leak system will pick that up as AI too. So just use your basic knowledge to proofread your work, to check that your work is acceptable before you submit it, right? Also, something that you need to do is research what authentic material entails, right? So authentic material is material that has been created for entertainment or just information purposes, not for education purposes. So again, just so you know what you're working with. And then I said to you earlier, if you can't find the assignment feedback, send us a ticket and we will, of course, send you the steps. But it is as basic as going to your home page, clicking on the right-hand corner's icon, select grades. On the next page on your course, you just scroll down, pass all your test results, and your feedback is at the bottom of the page. If you are like me and you've already forgotten all those instructions, no stress. Send us a ticket and we'll send them to you. In fact, if you get stuck at any point in the assignment, send us a ticket at Tutor Support. But remember, as specified in our terms and mentioned earlier, we cannot preview assignment work before you submit. You get 3 attempts in total, 1 initial submission, 2 resubmission attempts. And again, as mentioned, it's more than okay to have to resubmit. All right, so now without wasting any more time, it is Q&A time, right? So we're going to immediately get into Q&A where I can answer all those questions that you have about the assignment. Remember, I'm not going to okay activities that you send here today. I cannot do that. If we can't do that on Tutor Support, I certainly cannot do it right here during this webinar. But if you've got questions about the assignment, please put them in the chat box right now, and I'll get to as many of those as possible. So I see that a couple of questions have already come in, but not only a couple of questions, some more visitors from England. Hello to you. And as mentioned earlier, Seth from Austria, you're so welcome. All right. Right, so let's have a look at our first question. And it's from Subhash. And Subhash says, I created first online activity with Kahoot, right? Please suggest a suitable online tool for creating the second online activity. I mean, with this one, Subhash, you can use Kahoot again, because remember, It's all about just displaying your 6 to 8 prompts in an engaging sort of way. You can also just use something as simple as PowerPoint, right? So you create a nice engaging slide with colors and pictures, and then put your 6 to 8 prompts on the PowerPoint slide. Then convert that to PDF, or what you can do is you can just sort of take a screenshot of this, put it into the materials file, and you're good to go. Remember that it's for an online lesson. You don't specifically have to use online tools with which to create your tasks. Like, it doesn't have to be done on Kahoot. You can simply create a beautiful PowerPoint slide, copy and paste this into the materials file, and you're just fine. But I'm really excited to see that Kahoot quiz that you've created, Subhash. They're always so cool. All right, so we've got another question from Stu. Hello, Stu. It's in relation to the respective columns below the 6 headings. Okay, gotcha. Of the PPP planning template. So stage aim, timing, interaction. Okay, teacher activity, student activity. So, right. So, Stu, I think this is maybe a comment. I can't really see a question here. But please, yes, if you do have a question, let me know. I do see there's another question from you just below. If there are errors in more than one of the lower respective columns, okay, I see, here you go. In a particular stage of the planning template, it is required that all errors and improvements are recorded, or just one. If there are errors in more than one of the lower respective columns, okay, in a particular stage, is it required that all errors and improvements are recorded, or just one? Okay, so Stu, I'm going to answer as to what I think you're asking. And if I'm not, we've got time. You can send a follow-up question, right? So as mentioned earlier, we are sending you an existing PPP lesson plan, and it's got glitches. It's not ideal, right? But of course, there are so many things that you could comment on, right? But we don't want all of those. We want you just to make 2 recommendations per stage. So say, for example, you're looking at the warmer and you're thinking, this warmer, the timing is not right, or the stage is not really conducive to an online lesson. So there are 2 things already, right? So you can pick out any 2 issues that you see in a particular stage, and you can make recommendations on how to improve those 2 issues. You do not have to comment on absolutely everything. The reason we put so many glitches in is so that there are lots of different things you can comment on, but you need to select 2. And as mentioned on one of the former slides, look for things like timing. Look for things like, is the task appropriate to that particular stage? Does it involve the students, or is the teacher just standing up there, doing everything? So those are some things you can look at, but you're just meant to highlight 2 issues per stage. Please let me know if that answers your question. All right. And then we've got a follow-up question. Subash has asked, and remember, teachers, please start putting your questions in, because I can see that there are not many questions coming in at the moment, and I would like to answer them right here for you so that you're ready for that assignment when the time comes. Okay, so can instructions for the first online activity be written under the title on Kahoot? Absolutely. Remember, it's always wise, if you're designing a worksheet of any kind, it's wise to include a set of instructions for the students to follow, always. Whether it be a reading comprehension, whether it be a speaking task, whether it be a vocabulary activity, any activities that you're planning for this assignment and beyond, please always remember that your students need clear instructions, right? So if your instruction is read the text, and the name of the text, please then answer the questions below. Absolutely, you can put the instructions on the worksheet, or in, as you've mentioned, under the title if you're using something like Kahoot. So yes, absolutely. All right. Any other questions about assignment 3? Sorry, level 3 assignment B, giving you a brand new assignment here. Level 3 assignment B. Any other questions? Please send them now so that I can answer them. But remember, if you're like me and you remember something after the fact, you can absolutely send it to tutor support where we will answer your questions. All right, and then Stu, please let me know if my answer did in fact answer the question that you particularly asked. If not, then yes, please go ahead and just clarify exactly what you were asking so that I can get back to you and answer appropriately. All right. Any other questions coming in? All right, so I'm going to have a look. Here's another question that has come in. So while checking, and this question is from Subash, thank you for your question. While checking instructions on true or false on vocab kitchen, false was found at B1. Do I need to replace it? No, you do not. You know, Subash, when it comes to teaching English, yes, most of the vocabulary is graded and we teach according to level, right? But there are a few words, phrases that your students start learning at a very low level in order to answer questions in the classroom. Things like, you know, instruction words, they will learn true, false, for example. Yeah, they would have tense, the word tenses, the word vocabulary, as big a word as it is, they will learn that word very, very early on. So don't worry so much about true, false. They will know exactly what that means. They actually learn that at a very low level, like A1 already. You know, sometimes we can use wrong and right, or correct or incorrect, but at the end of the day, true and false is something that they're going to see for the rest of their lives, really. So you can absolutely include it, even though Vocab Kitchen puts it at a little bit higher. All right. Okay, so let's see. Stu, I think you've tried to clarify. If there's an error in stage and one in stage aim. Oh, yes. Okay. So, say for example, it's one stage and one of it is the name of the stage and the other one is the aim, then yes, those would already be two issues that you'd want to comment on. But if you want to comment on more than that, you can consolidate that, right? You can say the name and the stage, the name of the stage and the stage aim do not quite correlate. So I would change this and this, right? So you can either view them as two separate things, especially if they are two standalone issues. But if they are two little issues that are very much related, you can consolidate them into one and then pick another issue to nitpick and to comment on in that particular stage. I hope that helps. All right. Stu, but please let me know. Okay. And then Kelly has asked, I am not at this assignment yet, but ... Yeah, you'll get there, right? Is there a way to determine how long a worksheet will take for a student? Okay, so very good question, right? So Kelly, we have already given you the time frame for the stage, plus we've asked you how long, we've asked you for 6 to 8 questions, meaning that we've already gone ahead and we've thought about it, right? So a 15-minute stage where your students will be able to do this, this, and this with some feedback. Let's look at activity 2 where they have to speak, for example. We've given you the designated amount of time. We've given you how many prompts to include. So absolutely, that's what you can work with. But Kelly, if you're not given those guidelines, say for example, you're thinking outside of the assignment, my advice is always look at existing activities out there and how long teachers have recommended for these activities. And then I have backup always, right? So say for example, I've given a student or students 15 minutes to do something. I know that in my class, some of them are going to take a little bit longer and some of them are going to finish 10 minutes or 5 minutes in. For those quick finishes, I'm going to have maybe an additional couple of questions they can work with that I will give to them once they are done. And for those that are still busy, I have the flexibility, that leeway of 3 more minutes to accommodate. But for the assignment, we've already specified the time and the amount of questions we need on the worksheet. Going forward, also, Kelly, once you've designed an activity, actually do it yourself, right? So do the activity yourself, time it, and then kind of add on some time, knowing that as ESL students, they're going to need a little bit more time. Right. So yeah, in the assignment, we've specified all those things. If, for example, you are not talking about the assignment, but going forward on your own, look at examples. And then once you've designed your activity, do the activity yourself, time it, and add a bit of time, especially as you know, we as first language speakers or fluent speakers or proficient speakers, we will get through something really quickly, whereas a student at a lower level is going to take longer. So either double the time or add enough time on for that student to finish what they need to do. Also remember that very often in a stage, you also have to give a little bit of time for giving instructions and a little bit of time for feedback at the end. And remember, teachers, feedback is imperative. You've got to do feedback, right? And what does feedback entail? I mean, think about it like this. You're in a class, your teacher has given you a comprehension activity to do, and then at the end of the activity, the teacher says, okay, compare your answers with your partner, which is great as it increases speaking time, but then the teacher doesn't actually have any kind of feedback or error correction with you. In other words, you're not going to know whether your answers are correct or not. And remember, teachers, we don't really take in worksheets anymore to mark them, right? Not in TEFL. What we do is once your students have finished the worksheet, they either compare answers together, they write corrections. It is a very autonomous kind of scenario. Gone are the days where we go and take worksheets home to mark. No, no, nobody's got that kind of time. Let them peer correct, let them do their own error correction. Listen to the answers, correct them, they get to mark them, they get to make notes. It's a fun process and it's a student-centered process. The only time you would maybe take something home to mark it is if it is a piece of text that you've asked them to produce, like an essay or a blog, that you might take home to mark. But comprehension activities, that sort of thing, include enough time for feedback. Speaking activities, you don't get involved while they speak, allow them that freedom to do that. But afterwards, once they're done, have a few minutes where you can get a little bit of feedback. And a lot of students see this as that validation, knowing that what they've produced during the activity also gets acknowledged a bit by the teacher. So that helps a lot. All right. Okay, so Stu, you've said thank you for your assistance. So I'm assuming that I did answer the actual question that you asked. But yes, if there's anything else that you're unclear about, or if you still need a bit more guidance on stuff, tutor support, and we can help you. All right, any other questions? I need more questions to come in. All right. So a couple of comments, understood. Thank you very much. You're so welcome. Right, so any other questions about the assignment? You can ask them now. We're almost done. We don't have a lot of time, but yes, absolutely send those questions in, whether it's about the activities, whether it's about any of the terminology that I used today that you might not be sure about. Please send your questions and I can answer them. We have a few minutes left. Also remember that this webinar will be available within a few days. We always load them. So if you didn't catch everything from the very start, you're more than welcome to rewatch and rewatch and rewatch these webinars as many times as you wish and on your own time, right? So if you know that there's maybe another webinar, a different webinar that you were interested in that you've missed prior to this one, also remember that you can get onto our YouTube channel and watch all of them as many times as you wish. If you can't find the link, you can't find any of the webinars that you're specifically looking for, you can again send us a message on tutor support and we'll send you the link. You'll see once you click on that link that tons of different webinars come up, but that's great, right? Because then you get to scroll through them and you get to decide which of those you want to watch. Also remember that our assignment formats have changed a little bit in a sense that the assignments are a bit more streamlined and a bit simpler. So do try, when it comes to assignments, to watch the more recent webinars that we've got on. All right. Okay, and then we've got and here's another reason why these webinars are so useful. Joni has told us that others' questions and comments have clarified the assignment for me. That is fantastic, right? So that's what these webinars are all about, where you get to ask your questions, but very often you're sitting on a question that someone else has, and when they ask, it gets clarified. We're very, very happy to hear that. All right, so if there are no further questions coming in and you're all feeling ready and strong to do the assignment, we'll wrap up for today. But again, yes, Joni, to you and the others, if you do remember any other questions that you'd like to ask, you know what I'm going to say, tutor support, and we'll be more than happy to help you. All right, so as mentioned, do remember that all our previous webinars are available, YouTube channel, in the video section. Different tutors, myself included, present on a weekly basis. So again, remember that you've got to make this appointment, join these webinars, because very often you've got a question maybe that someone else is not going to ask, and then you've got the opportunity to do so. So these webinars, same time, same-ish place next week. Please join. All right, just one last request before we wrap up, and that is our all-important survey. So those of you who join on a weekly basis, you'll know that we ask you to fill in a little survey so that you can tell us what you liked, what didn't like about the webinar, and also a few ideas maybe on topics that you would like to see discussed and handled in these webinars, because we really need for you to feel like you've gained something from them. So I'm going to be posting the survey link in the chat right now. I'm going to be displaying it on the screen also. And yeah, please fill it in and let us know what you're thinking. So that is the end of today's webinar. I am going to be putting that survey link up in a second. Thank you for joining. Go and weekend now, and we see you next time. Stay safe out there. Bye, everybody.